This is where I come home to.
Look at us. We're matching. And the blanket.
Okay, let's take it out. Me. Do you want it? You want to go back?
Was it not?
You know how America has a gun problem? And how we continuously refuse to address the way guns are handled in this country, which leads to like children, teachers, and people just being unsafe in general. And you know how there's been an influx of people throwing away their Bud Light because they support trans people? And because they had Dylan Mulvaney on a campaign for them? What if we just like yassified guns in America? Think like Smith & Wesson x Alluring Skull. Do you think that they would throw them away?
That video was kind of racist. Anyways, have you ever heard the song Honky Tonk Badonkadonk? It's so hard not to stare at the honky tonk Badonkadonk.
So baby, come on, baby, let me try. I gotta see her. Travel all across the world just to meet her. Keep me on the fly.
Hey, dragon, not lizard. I don't do that tongue thing.
You're,
Intimidating? Awe-inspiring?
tiny.
Of course. I'm travel size for your convenience. If I was my real size, your cow here would die of fright. Down, Bessie.
So in America, we have this thing called freedom of speech. No one has to respect my...
So I'm going to explain a little why misgendering trans people is more significant than a lot of people think, because this video really pisses me off. Words are not just words, especially when they are rooted in or associated with hateful ideologies. The same people who actively misgender trans people are the same ones who vote against our rights. They are the reason we face so much legal and social discrimination. Being misgendered to a lot of trans people is the constant reminder that they are not only respected, but they are not safe. For you to ask why people are getting so offended and upset by this is just reeks of fucking privilege. Also, in regards to what happened in Tennessee, the reason people are talking about not misgendering that person is because the people who are actively misgendering that person are doing it in order to villainize the trans community. They are trying to build an association between that individual's actions and the trans community in general. And with there already being so much propaganda as to why trans people are dangerous, that is so fucking harmful.
Every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
And white men shoot up schools. If you really want to go tit for tat, white men are not about to win. I don't know why y'all talk about white women as if y'all are not worse. Putting on that wig didn't hide the misogyny.
People ask me if I purchase to seats when flying. They say it's not fair to the person who has to sit next to me if I don't. When I tell them I do, they say I'm selfish for taking a seat from another. The fact of the matter is that people can't stand to see fat people happy. So why should we care what they think?
If you don't watch Fox News, here are 5 totally real and definitely not made up stories you might have missed this week. Consent is woke. Disney has apparently changed some of the lyrics in the Little Mermaid live-action remake to include consent. And according to Fox hosts, that's bad.
It's unbelievable, Michelle, that they're looking at this and seeing something offensive in it, that you need to give consent and it's got to be clear.
They talked about this so much. At one point, they brought in a contributor to analyze Ariel's body language in the cartoon, because this is the news.
But in this scene, Ariel showed every sign of a woman who wanted to be kissed.
Progressive Brandon Johnson is now the mayor-elect of Chicago, and according to Fox, that's bad, and also somehow Obama's fault.
The kook wins, and Barack's in Hawaii, smoking a cigarette.
Can't believe him. The audacity. Now, Joe Biden wants a lot of things. He wants to trans your kids. He wants to smoke a blunt with the Constitution. But he also wants more than that.
What he wants most of all is more violence. Another January 6th type event. One that they can blame on the Republicans.
As opposed to I really need to know who Laura thinks we've been blaming for January 6th.
The Republicans.
Trans activist Dylan Mulvaney is in an ad partnership with Bud Light. I'm sure you've seen conservatives melting down over this, and Fox was no different.
Why is Dylan in a bathtub? Our skeletons are different. Did Rob O'Neill get a Bud Light can with his face on it when he shot bin Laden?
And finally, a man on the street interview didn't go as planned. Fox reporter Sarah Carter interviewed New Yorkers about the Trump indictment. I'm honestly surprised that this guy made the cut.
Do you think any other politician would face the same kind of scrutiny?
Absolutely.
You think?
Absolutely, yes.
He's the first one.
Well, other politicians, he's the first president, but other politicians have been indicted before, haven't they?
I don't know who he is, but so many people want to Venmo him money for coffee, and rightfully so. Honestly, I want to see fan cams of that dude. Now, between the Trump indictment and the Dominion suit, you could probably tell that Fox News was scrambling a little bit. There wasn't really any consistency in narratives or weirdness. It was just general whining. I think they just need the weekend to recharge, so I'll see you on Friday for next week's recap. And despite what they say, please teach your child about consent.
Chris Tyson, Mr. Beast's right-hand person, has come out as trans and is proudly opening up about their gender journey. Chris, who goes by all pronouns, announced on Twitter that they've been undergoing hormone replacement therapy, HRT, for the past 2 months after another user pointed out the difference in their appearance. HRT helps the user's body to align with their gender identity, a huge step in being able to live comfortably in their skin. Responding to a viewer questioning their different appearance, Chris commented on how important gender-affirming care is. Chris wrote, "Informed consent HRT saved my and many others' lives. Hurdles gender non-conforming people have to jump through to get life-saving gender-affirming healthcare in a first-world country is wild to me. Just let people make informed decisions about their own bodies." While some of Mr. Beast's fans turned to transphobia, even bringing Chris's 2-year-old child Tucker into it, saying there goes a father figure the kid won't be able to look up to. Chris is using his platform to educate people on trans issues and shut down ignorant stereotypes, as she clapped back saying, "This is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Kids aren't born with hate. It's taught by people like you, and my child will only know love." And with the outpouring of love from fans and other members of Mr. Beast's crew, it's clear to see that the internet is here for them living as their authentic self, as it hasn't always been this way. Chris was called out in 2021 after homophobic and transphobic posts from the past resurfaced, and she explained that prior to coming out as bisexual in 2020, she had struggled with her identity in the past. They attributed this to religion, tweeting, "I remember sitting in sermons hearing homosexuality is an abomination and hating myself for so many years silently because of it. Being who you were born to be isn't a sin." Chris has also opened up about experiencing gender dysphoria and knowing at age 5 that they enjoyed wearing their sister's clothes. Fans are praising the YouTuber for being so open, as it hasn't always been easy. They said that when they came out as bi, they were hit with a lot of negative backlash from friends and family. Chris wrote, "Someday I'd like to go into detail about more of this, but I'm still very private about it due to things that happened when I tried coming out. Whether or not they choose to share their trans journey, the importance of trans people being able to live as their authentic selves can't be underestimated. And as Chris wrote, trans rights are human rights, let people exist and be happy."
Okay, so there's this girl named Lola or whatever that has been upsetting the entire deaf community for too long. Basically, she has an Instagram called ASL with Lola, showing her journey learning ASL. Learning, keep that in mind. I guess at some point she decided to start showing signs, and the videos would blow up. So for example, she would say, "Today's sign what? That's teaching." She then proceeds to comment down below, "Not teaching." Like, that makes everything okay. Now, I don't have a problem with hearing people learning ASL. If anything, deaf people encourage hearing people to learn ASL. The problem is, you're not fluent. This girl posts a video almost every day showing how to sign some words, and they're wrong. And I'm so sorry for the people who want to learn ASL and are learning from her. It's all wrong. It would be a different story if the girl posted a video like, "Hey, I learned this sign," then shows the sign. "Can a deaf person help me? I want feedback. By the way, don't learn from me." And I really wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, hoping that she would own up to her mistakes, because people make mistakes all the time. That's okay. But as soon as deaf people, interpreters, codas started calling her out, she blocked them. Not only did she misrepresent ASL, she also had the opportunity to interpret the national anthem for the University of Alabama's baseball game. So what you're saying is you're an ASL interpreter. That takes years of education and certification to call yourself that. And you signed the national anthem in front of a whole audience with deaf people there.
Okay, if you're a bit confused about the whole Trump indictment, listen up, because here are the basics of what he's allegedly in trouble for. So back in the final weeks of the 2016 election, Trump allegedly directed his attorney at the time, Michael Cohen, to pay adult film actress Stormy Daniels $130,000, attempting to buy her silence over an alleged sexual encounter she had with Trump a decade earlier. Cohen was later reimbursed in monthly installments out of then President Donald Trump's personal account. Trump's company then lodged these payments as legal expenses, a categorization prosecutors have since questioned. We don't know all the indictment details just yet, but several US media outlets have reported that Trump will likely be charged with falsifying business records. In New York, where he's been indicted, this is just a misdemeanor, but here's why it could be upgraded to a felony. See, the crux of the issue is, does Cohen's payment to Daniels count as using money to influence the outcome of an election, aka contributing to Trump's campaign? Because if so, the failure to disclose that payment may count as a felony violation of campaign finance law. Cohen has actually already pleaded guilty to this, but because it was part of a larger plea deal, this question was never actually tested before a jury. Now, Trump denies all wrongdoing, saying he would have made payments to Daniels regardless of the presidential campaign. Also, it's worth noting that the Constitution doesn't prohibit indicted, convicted, or even incarcerated felons from running for president. So this doesn't automatically spell the end of Trump 2024.
You can't handle the uber instincts of my uber autism. Observe.
Oh yes, all sizes are beautiful. 6X, my favorite. 5X, oh my God, can I? 4X, oh, girl, you was gorgeous. 3X, oh my God. 2X, yes. 1X, oh, talk to me nice. Extra large, oh my God, girl, you was gorgeous. Large, oh. Medium, let's go, gorgeous. Small, let's go. Extra small? Oh my God. XXX! Girl, you was gorgeous.
Hey, so I wanted to say this to you. I feel led to say this to you. And because you're really one of the few young women I've run into on here. You're 23, I'm 31. It's a lot of time in between that. And navigating this romance shit is, it can be a rough ride because there's a lot of factors and things to consider. So I feel that as an older man, I might be able to have something to offer to you to kind of help you out with this. Because I was looking at your profile and I noticed you was like, you know, I want a relationship. I don't just want to fuck. So what I'm assuming is that you're running into men who simply just want something physical and don't want anything substantial long term. And so again, everything I'm about to say to you is purely out of love. I hope I'm not offending you. I hope I'm not, hurting you, but I just, again, it'd be better you hear this from a kind voice than to experience a dark path on your way to your 30s. So what happens with men often, whether you a man with a good head on your shoulders or you an asshole, we all kind of experience the same thing sexually because the sexual domain is its own domain. It doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care about reason. It is what it is. So what happens is man puts you into two categories. Either you're somebody long term or you're somebody short term. And a man will typically use a woman for sex who he doesn't see a future with. And when I looked at your photos, I noticed that you were overweight. And for the average man, He's just not attracted to that. And so if you continue down this path, you're going to continue to put yourself on the path of undesirability, and men will continually put you in the category of, I'm not that attracted to her. I'm just going to use her sexually, and then I'm going to get on with my life and, be with somebody who I find more desirable, even if you may be the better woman on the inside, because, when you're talking about monogamy, like the foundation of monogamy is sexual exclusivity, and a man has to be satisfied with what he looks at, or he's going to be tempted to cheat. So what I would suggest to you, since you are 23 and you have a lot of time ahead of you, and you can get a lot done in 3 months, 6 months, a year, I would suggest you focus on taking care of your body. I'm sure you're a wonderful woman. I'm sure you have a lot to offer a man, but you are going to continually find yourself in a lot of frustrating situations with men until you work on that part of yourself, because romance is not just about being a good person and being fun. There's also that sexual part of it too, and attraction has to be there, especially for the man, because we're a visual. So again, I don't say this to offend you. I don't say this to hurt you or anything. I'm really saying this out of love, because I see the frustration in your profile, and I already know, like, as a man, you're going to continue to face that frustration if you don't handle that problem of the overweight. So you have a lot of time ahead of you. I would suggest you work on that. Continue to keep your femininity. Continue to be a good woman, and be the whole package. And you're going to, once you take care of that, it's not to say that it's gonna completely go away, because you can't avoid fuck boys entirely. You can't avoid niggas with no intentions entirely. That's just the name of the game. Just like I can't avoid women with, nothing going for themselves, or women who may be useless or whatever. But it'll lessen your chances that you're going to run into the type of nigga that you don't want to run into. So, I'm sorry for the bluntness, but I just felt I wanted to say that to you, because you're a young woman, and I hope, you avoid this nasty romance game and what it can be, so.
Growing up with a disability my entire life, swimming has been one of my only forms of physical therapy. It is very accessible to people with disabilities. And I've always loved swimming. The only issue is that because one of my disabilities is degenerative, it's become increasingly difficult to even just swim in the pool for 5 minutes without it causing so much damage, like accidental injuries, that I can't walk for the following week. And I didn't know that wasn't normal. So my doctors, although they all encourage me to exercise and stuff, they've started telling me that I need to wait to see a physical therapist who specializes in hypermobility. Unfortunately, in South Florida, there's only one. And the wait list is so long that they literally can't even tell me how long it is, like how long I have to wait. My pain specialist recommended to stop doing at-home PT in the meantime, like swimming. But today I was like, you know what, let me try a different method. Let me try just like sitting at the edge and moving my legs for 5-10 minutes and see how I feel for the rest of the week. So I guess I'll let you guys know how my legs feel throughout the week.
I have a question about dating non-binary people. So the other day I had a non-binary person ask me to be their boyfriend. And I said, sure, that is fine, as long as you could tell me what to call you. And they said, whatever. And I said, no, you need to pick something. And they said, whatever you'll choose will be fine. So we reviewed the following options. Partner, doesn't sound right. I don't know. Boyfriend, they're telling me that doesn't really exactly fit them. So next, they friend, sounds a little weird. So I don't know. What do you guys call a non-binary person that you are dating non-monogamously? Sorry if this is an old conversation, but I am kind of at a loss right now.
I could do this shit with no effort. You know I do this shit with no effort. I could do this shit with no effort.
I actually cannot do it at all, and it is very difficult.
Fuck being underrated, I wanna have everything they did. Funds, bitches, weed, money, YSL, gold chain, Maserati, penthouse, helicopter, fame. What you looking at, baby, is a motherfucking legend in the making.
Stay away, motherfucker! It's just one of those days! It's all about the he said, she said bullshit!
Get ready with me while I tell you about the way people have treated me for years because my mum is who she is. I learnt from a very young age that when your mum's a drug addict, people treat you a lot differently, like not just a little, a lot. Now some people come at you from a place of like pity, so they feel sorry for you, and then there are others that come at you in a place of like they just basically think you're the same. They don't trust you around their kids. Other parents, this is. So other parents don't trust you around the kids, especially if you come from a troubled background. My mum was a thief, so, you know, it makes a little bit of sense, but at the same time, I think it's cruel. The worst part was people at school, like friends and stuff like that, finding out what my mum was, because that literally changed the game for me. I got called names a lot, as well as the fact that people thought it was okay to just call my mum whatever they wanted. And because I was young and I was blind, and it's not that I was blind, I didn't really understand, so I used to fight tooth and nail for my mum. I used to stick up for her, and as you can imagine, that just made the situation way worse. Most of the time I got battered on the way home from school, and a lot of the time in primary school I sat on my own at dinner and break times, because once the kids found out what my mum was, it was like I was the plague. Nobody really wanted to associate with me. The teachers knew, and they basically couldn't really do anything other than feel sorry for me. I've even had college tutors call my mum names. So for example, I had a college tutor called Davina in college, right, when I was doing hairdressing, and obviously at the time my attendance was really, really poor because my mum would kick off at home and then I'd be terrified to leave my nan. So I didn't go most of the time, but my work was always top bar. So one day, it was basically the end of the year, so I'd finished and completed one section of the course, but then I had to go on to the next year, so you would have like 6 weeks holidays and then come back. So as I'm on my way out of college this one day, on the last day of college, this tutor literally pulls me on the way out and says, "Charlie, I know your mum's a smackhead and that, but next year can you try harder?" No offence, but I'm not here to teach you to be bad against tutors, but she got told to fuck off by me, because nobody, and I mean no one, has the right to say anything about my mum other than me. Please come back for a part 2, angels.
All right, what are we doing? Go ahead, take off your hat, show her what you did. Go on, come on, take it off. Okay, come on, take it off. Look, okay, well, okay? What do you mean okay? This isn't okay. All right, ma'am, how can that be your reaction? Are you joking? She has these bald spots because she pulls her hair out. Okay, somehow, through this very little context, I've gathered that. This is ridiculous. You're a hairstylist. How are you not appalled by this? Okay, well, first of all, hair pulling disorders are a lot more common than you disorder. She doesn't have a disorder. She's pulling out her hair for attention. Okay, I'm gonna bet probably not. Why else would somebody be doing this? I mean, come on. So it's out of my area of expertise to be able to diagnose or treat anything, but there is a hair pulling disorder that's called trichotillomania, and quite a few people struggle with it actually. Oh, they gave it a name. They sure did give it a name because it's a real thing. Well, she already knows that if she continues this, she's going to be losing that cell phone of hers. Yeah, that's probably not a great approach to this. Oh no? Okay, what would you recommend? Well, I have a few clients that struggle with pulling their hair out, and usually when we give them a really good color that they love, they're a little less prone to pulling. Oh, so your advice is to spend money and get her hair colored. Well, I mean, you don't have to, but that has helped a few of my clients. So I'm not weird like my mom keeps saying I am? Yes, it's weird. Ma'am, just because you don't understand something doesn't necessarily make it weird. Don't understand. I understand that my daughter's pulling her own hair out. Oh, by the look of your hands, I can tell you're a nail biter. What a rude thing to say. Just an observation, but much like you bite your nails out of stress, anxiety, or even just pure boredom, she does the same with pulling her hair. That's not the same. So many more people bite their nails. Nail biting might be more common, but they're being done for the same reasons. It's not the same. Nail biting isn't a disorder that has a name. It's actually called onychophagia. Yeah, has almost identical triggers to trichotillomania. It's just more common. Oh, yeah. So it's okay that I do it? Well, you could potentially cause some damage to your hair follicles by doing it, much like biting your nails can cause damage to your nails, but nobody should judge you for it. But I'm not weird. No, you're not weird, just human.
All right, Matt? It's kind of a trick question because I hate them both equally, but I guess I would say I would rather do the dishes, but I'd prefer if she just did both of the things.
Michael, to you. Dishes, it's no question. I'm not sure in our entire marriage if I've ever done a full load of laundry, so I think I have that one.
I like it. All right, Drew?
Well, this is a trick question because I have not done anything around the house for 40 years.
Shit like this brings the movement down. Everyone's a feminist until there is a spider around.